We've become addicted to explosions. The IDF unit responsible for demolishing homes across Gaza. 20 days after more than 1,100 people were killed in a Hamas attack on October the 7th, the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, launched its ground offensive in Gaza, with the stated aim of destroying Hamas and bringing hostages home. As of April the 12th, 2024, more than 33,000 people have been killed in Gaza, according to UNOCHA reports. In response to the IDF offensive, the International Court of Justice issued interim measures to prevent genocide. Systematic and widespread attacks on civilian housing and infrastructure in Gaza has been described as domicide by Professor Balakrishnan Rajagopal, the UN's Special Rapporteur on the right to adequate housing. He told us even with attacks against individual buildings, every building which is bombed or destroyed has got to be evaluated legally. Whether a building on this or that corner of a road needed to be destroyed or not, the burden is on the IDF to show that they have evidence, that they have proof that the attack is proportionate and necessary." Unquote. It's estimated that more than 50% of Gaza's buildings have been destroyed or damaged, and approximately 1.7 million people have been displaced since the offensive began. Bellingcat worked with partners Scripps News to investigate the alleged domicide in Gaza and the ongoing conflicts over land in the West Bank. You can watch the full documentary here. I'll post a link at the bottom in the video description. The constant repetition of images of destruction inside Gaza, where entire neighbourhoods have been turned to rubble, can result in desensitization about the impact of the offensive. Yet behind each ruined building, each demolished minaret, each pile of rubble, there is a decision and an action that has been carried out by a specific unit or person. We use social media to track a single IDF Combat Engineering Battalion, 8219 Commando, as they moved across Gaza, demolishing tunnels, houses and mosques. 8219 Commando is a combat engineering battalion associated with 551 Commando Brigade, and as one of its members asked journalists to report, part of the 98th Division. We noticed soldiers from 8219 openly posted about their experiences inside Gaza, providing a window into military operations that rarely opens when looking at official sources. One member of 8219, a captain, wrote posts about his experiences in the form of a war diary, noting where they were and what they destroyed. These posts, combined with social media posts by other members of 8219, include videos, pictures and statements describing the unit's experience of war. We geolocated each video or image of a demolition, verifying exactly where it took place. We then used satellite imagery from Planet Labs to determine when the demolition had occurred. We used all these sources to build up a picture of where 8219 went, what it demolished and why. The first demolition we identified, which 8219 participated in, occurred on November the 13th or 14th. Members of the unit demolished a two-storey building overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. No justification for this demolition was given in the post. November the 20th to the 23rd, residential housing blocks. After this, the pace and scale of demolitions appeared to pick up considerably. Between October the 20th and 23rd, the battalion participated in multiple demolitions of residential tower blocks immediately next to Al-Quds Hospital in the neighbourhood of Tel Al-Hawa, Gaza City. November the 14th, 2023, before November the 26th, 2023 after. Satellite imagery of this neighbourhood shows that at least 34 residential housing blocks were either completely or partially destroyed during this time. As most of these blocks were 7 to 10 stories high, this meant the demolition of a significant amount of homes. On November the 19th, the captain wrote about finding rockets and a UAV at one location, which matches a Times of Israel report from this time. He did not explain why this discovery required the destruction of so many residential blocks. December the 10th to December the 15th, Al-Ishla Mosque. Sometime between the 10th and the 15th of December, Al-Ishla Mosque and an adjacent building were demolished. Religious buildings receive protected status under international humanitarian law. An Instagram post depicting this mosque being prepared for demolition claimed that, quote, every house, mosque and school has been used here for terror purposes, either as a place for terrorists, an explosive warehouse, or a military base. Several months later, on February the 19th, 2024, the mosque's Facebook page posted an image of a destroyed building, its minaret collapsed into the road. December the 17th to the 19th, buildings around Al-Ishla Mosque. A few buildings around Al-Ishla Mosque was destroyed. Several demolitions took place in the neighbourhood around it. December the 26th to January the 3rd, neighbourhoods in Qusayr. After the demolitions in the north of Gaza, the focus of the units switched to Qusayr, a town in the southeast of Khan Yunis. The captain notes that a separate unit requested the help of 8219, indicating that their chain of command changed for this operation. This operation included a large number of demolitions in the town of Qusayr and Kirbet-Qazah. Between December the 26th and January the 6th, the IDF bulldozed large areas and demolished buildings using explosives. January the 16th, 2024, after. Quote, we've become addicted to explosions, unquote, the captain said in a post on December the 28th. Satellite imagery shows the extent of this destruction. Qusayr and Kirbet-Qazah are very close to the border with Israel. These demolitions appear to be part of an effort to create a, quote, buffer zone between Gaza and Israel. However, the captain added further details in a Facebook post describing the operation as one to take and, quote, destroy the village of the murderers, unquote. The final demolition we identified took place in the heart of Khan Yunis, a city in the south of the Gaza Strip, in mid-January. The captain posted at length about an operation on Facebook, including claiming that he had received more than 300 mines for use in the operation. Other soldiers posted images and videos from this location. Planet Labs imagery shows a large area of destroyed buildings in Khan Yunis, near where we geolocated the photos and videos from 8219 soldiers. A tour video from 8219 Commando claims that in 84 days of fighting they destroyed 49 tunnels and 662 buildings. Our partners at Scripps News interviewed a member of 8219, Jonathan Seagal, who said, quote, I think we are the unit, at least until we left, that blew up the most amount of homes in Gaza, unquote. The captain himself said they destroyed, quote, thousands of buildings. noting in a post on January 13, 2024, that his commanding officer told him that there was, quote, no precedent, unquote, for this in the IDF, and that they had stopped counting the buildings they had destroyed. Sometimes soldiers did not give an explanation about why they carried out demolitions. Other times they listed a number of objectives or reasons for the demolitions. One of these appeared to be seeking revenge. For instance, one post from a captain notes that his company commander described the destruction of swaths of Kuza as revenge for October 7th and deaths of soldiers. When interviewed by our partners Scripps News, 8219 member Jonathan Segal said he did not post about the demolitions on social media but had videos of them on his phone. Asked if revenge was one of the motivations behind the demolitions, he said, quote, yes, but what is revenge? Revenge in terms of teaching them a lesson, so to speak, so that they would never do it again, unquote. Religious elements appeared to creep in. In one post regarding the demolitions in Khan Yunis, the captain talked of using 400 mines to demolish a residential area, quote, in honour of the Shabbat, unquote. We asked Professor Balakrishna Rajagopal, the UN Special Rapporteur on Adequate Housing, and the Professor of Law and Development at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, about the demolitions carried out by 8219 Commando. He told us that the demolitions were relevant to the ICJ case on genocide, supporting South Africa's case that Israel was, in effect, rendering Gaza uninhabitable. He noted that even if it was not possible to establish genocidal intent, widespread destruction, rendering a place uninhabitable, could still amount to a crime against humanity. Further, he noted that, quote, the buffer zone being cleared by the IDF along the border with Gaza doesn't fit the definition of such zones within the Geneva Convention and is effectively a, quote, land grab, taking approximately 16% of Gaza's land. Mirav Zonzin, a senior analyst on Israel-Palestine of the International Crisis Group, which monitors conflict, said the current conflict wasn't the only example of demolitions of Palestinian homes by the IDF, but it was, quote, on the scope that we've never seen, unquote. She said there were a few reasons the demolitions were happening, ranging from revenge to an extremely punitive interpretation of, quote, de-radicalization, unquote. Quote, they have a policy of deterrence, which means that if somebody fires at us, we'll come back at them 10 times harder, unquote, Zonzin told Bellingcat. Quote, essentially the aim of the offensive is to take apart Hamas as an entity, but they don't distinguish. Part of that is destroying infrastructure and changing the urban fabric through demolitions, unquote. They are trying to take apart a society. In addition to clearing the, quote, buffer zone, Zonzin said areas of northern Gaza had been largely depopulated and rendered completely uninhabitable by widespread destruction. Quote, the main thing they've done in this war is to empty the north of its people and make it almost impossible to live there, unquote. The question is if what they're doing and have done in the north of Gaza is part of a longer term plan to keep that part of the strip under Israeli occupation. We asked the IDF about each one of these incidents. They did not respond to specific questions, nor did they provide evidence showing why the buildings we highlighted were demolished. They told us the IDF is, quote, destroying terror infrastructures, unquote, embedded in civilian areas, and said that in certain cases large parts of neighbourhoods are converted into combat complexes. They said the IDF is operating in the Gaza Strip to prevent Hamas actively threatening Israeli citizens and implementing a defence plan to improve security in southern Israel. IDF actions are based on military necessity and in accordance with international law, they said. Quote, there is no IDF doctrine that aims at causing maximal damage to civilian infrastructure, regardless of military necessity," unquote, Ray said, adding that exceptional incidents occurring during the war will be examined by the General Staff fact-finding and assessment mechanisms. Quote, "The IDF addresses exceptional incidents that deviate from the order and expected values of IDF soldiers by examining such events and implementing command and disciplinary measures as necessary," unquote. So in summary, the IDF demolished thousands of residential buildings while the Israeli Air Force have been dropping 2,000-pound bombs that instantly destroy large buildings and damage surrounding ones, making northern Gaza uninhabitable, with 16% of Gaza taken in a land grab. We have no idea how many people have been killed in the process that are buried in the rubble and the destroyed tunnels. The Israelis offer no viable justification for doing such large-scale damage, indiscriminate killing, collective punishment, denying medical assistance, denying sufficient aid, essentially imposing a famine, and denying access to basic amenities. And the people giving the orders arrogantly state that they will be investigating themselves in regards to these serious matters. It is unacceptable, unjust and corrupt. Those in power who are responsible must be held to account for their actions.